Can it be reversed is the only question you should ask yourself. And that could be a part of the atonement, its own side quest, or you know what? Sometimes bad things happen and you gotta suck it up. It's a part of you forever, and you have to accept it and say to yourself, it's a true tragedy if I don't learn from it and grow from it. The auto or the you mean the Niv Mizzet? Well, I'm sure they will each bring their unique qualities to you. All right. If there are no more adoptions to be had immediately, I mean, we can do some more adoptions a little bit later. Why don't we bust open? Heck yeah. MS Paint. You know it. You know it. We have a region to map out. We're going to do this Forest Society. Why don't we map it? And this can help give us ideas. This can help us maybe find answers to the questions that we still had about this area, and continue to unify and tie in all of the elements that we've just been creating one at a time. Nothing's been high pressure. We're not trying to juggle a bunch of complex, we're not writing Kingdom Hearts here. We're making a fun sandbox that has a history, a philosophy, it has a people. And let's come up with more story elements for our proposed party of explorers to get into. Ooh, pardon me. So just as we did with our Swamp Society, where we focused in on a part of the region, we're going to focus in on a part of our forest and lake area. Do you see whispers as smart or wise? Yes. And the reason for that, as we were designing them last week, they are a strength-based race, so they are +2 strength. The swamp folk are getting +1 wisdom. The forest folk are getting +1 intelligence. And culturally, that mechanic has brought about different philosophies, and even was a part of the wedge dividing them that led to a civil war. It was good to hang out, but the Stein is empty and my rug is calling my name. Well, Jarnix, from one Stein to another, even if this is, well, a can. Cheers to you, Jarnix. Thank you for hanging out with us and for partaking in chat. And I hope to see you back here again. I've been here a few hours, but I'm developing my Roll20 games while listening. Very soothing, by the way. Writer of Rohan, thank you for your dedication to Rohan, first and foremost. Secondly, I'm glad. As a part of the broadcast, if you don't watch what happens, that's perfectly fine. A lot of what we do is narrated. A lot of it is vocal. I mean, it's like a radio show about D&D that has some pretty moving pictures every now and again. But for the most part, it's PDFs and paint and whatever. So, Writer of Rohan, I'm glad we've been soothing, maybe a little inspirational, and we're helping you to develop your game here. And if you ever need help with that, please ask. While I'm here presenting in a workshop, this is open talk time. This isn't, I mean, it's my show, but it's not my show. It's not the Maddie show, where it has to be all about me. Because I don't know everything. I know a lot of things. I don't know everything. And even just because I give you one answer doesn't mean it's the answer. Because Hypnotic or Bubonic or someone else may have a different answer that actually fits better than even what I offer. The Maddie Show, yes. If Rohan won't die, who will? And yeah, I enjoy making content. I usually listen to your building workshops on YouTube. I like to not disturb. Ah, you're not disturbing. Get out of here with that, writer. But thank you for watching on YouTube as well. That means a lot if you're taking the time to watch it. Because look, I know it's menacing. You get on YouTube and you're like, oh, there's a dude talking for an hour and a half. I get it. I do not have the time to make sexy, coherent edits to take an hour and a half program down to 15, 20 minutes. And so if you're doing that and it's still helping you out, thank you so much. Because I know it can seem daunting if you take a look at the videos. I know Delcorn says I know everything, but I'm always too busy to share my knowledge. Oh, you're too busy lurking. Okay. Hey, there we go, writer. You are rocking that cat butt. And thank you, Diadems, for that. Okay, well. Why don't we get it going? We have our forest prompt, right? We have our society, militocracy. The main city is going to be a fort of some kind. There's going to be these obelisks. There's going to be this boulder carved with talking faces. Let's just draw. If you want to paint a mini, just start painting. Who cares if it turns out ugly? Just start. Just do it. So this is our pre-stretched, double-primed canvas. It is wet, slick, ready to go, as Bob Ross is wont to say. We have our reference material, right? It's a squiggly lake with a river or two, and there's some mountains. Yay. Do we have a scale? Doesn't matter right now. This is just base material. It's inspirational. This can be what we would like it to be. And so if we want, we can have this be something like the following here. Maybe we squeeze in just a wee little bit of mountain, just off to the side like this. Do. Kind of goes off like that. And then we squeeze in a wee little bit of lake. We give it some interesting shapes. Maybe kind of like a natural harbor, like that or something. If you live close to a big body of water of some kind, you can go about it. If you want to do this by hand, take a handful of rice or beans and just kind of drop it or put it in a pattern and then trace around the rice grains or the beans. In fact, maybe this kind of that, and for whatever reason, we'll actually have it split off. And then this is coming from the weather that the mountains catch and send the water down. In fact, this could even be the product of several smaller tributaries coming from the mountains. In fact, we can even kind of have a fun, complex web. Like this. We put a little island there. And then this will just kind of come down to a little nubbin. Who knows? What does it matter? This is our river. The lake will continue down this way, and there we go. And if we really want to, I'll tell you what I want, what I really, really want. We'll put a big old boulder right here that the water is coursing around. And then we can even represent some other boulders and other like foothill style stuff that's right here. It could look like whatever we want. We can draw from real life. Maybe a little one, lot more woods and stuff. Maybe this kind of comes back, ooh, boop, like that. Big piece of mountain just kind of here as it's pushed up. Maybe this is even butted up against. And that's flowed inside. There we go. No rhyme or reason. Just put a color on them on here and just draw. Tell a story. Make sound effects. It all helps. By the way, let me catch back up in chat. Many more. He's got any info or content to share about your shop within the last few months? We had a very good free comic book day this past Saturday. It's been busy because we're getting into the summer season, and this is a tourist town. I don't know if there's anything in particular that you're looking for. Boy, I missed on a lot of chat. My goodness. Sorry about that. Nordic Geek says, speaking of Medi Morgs, where did you snag that sweet can holder? I received it as a gift, so I can't tell you offhand, Nordic Geek. Scrolling down, writer of Rohan. Pouty Lips was asking about the store. Maddie's not disturbed because he's not a human. Diadem says, holy cow, Pouty Lips. Did I miss something? What did I miss? I'm kind of worried now. Oh, just because you haven't seen each other in a while. Got it. Okay. Vehemut, I watch things like people talking about stuff I'm interested in. It's like a podcast. I'm glad you enjoy it, Vehemut. You're going to take your health schlep, BRB, 15 minutes. All right, Azrael. Well, come back when you can. Work and have 2 D&D games that I run now. Oh yeah, Deedums, you've been staying busy. Happy Little Trees. That's right, Neo Realms. Soapbox emote next. I tried uploading one, and they took the entire crate as a filled-in background, and they kept rejecting it, saying you have to have a transparent background. I'm like, but it's a crate that says soap. That's the emote. There's no transparency. It's a crate. It's a square that fills the square. What do you want? I'm not ashamed to admit I was a fan of the Spice Girls, says Delcorn. They were popular during a very important formative time in my life. Yeah, I think a lot of people will share that sentiment. They were sort of credited with the invention of pop, or at least modern pop. Free Comic Day was good for us. Monica set up a Perler art booth. Oh yeah, we had some artists in our store too, Realms. I'm glad it went well for you. And that I hope that you economically it was fun, and maybe you got to rub a couple elbows, and go from there. That was great. Had some cosplayers too. After falling down a wormhole of learning about plate tectonics, I'm taking an old map and redoing it with a bit of that in mind to see what I come up with, says Nordic. Well, if I would hope then that we have inspired you to want to go in and look at plate tectonics and geology and all this other stuff here. It may not be sexy, so says the physicist on Big Bang Theory, but gosh darn it if it's not the foundation for everything. Quite literally. Yep, they denied the Maddie. I finished my D&D campaign I played for a year and a half. We fought the god Shar and 4 other CR-32s to 36s, and we won. My other 5 members were dead. I was the last one alive and killed Shar 1 versus 1 to finish the battle. Wow, that is quite the tale, Pouty Lips. Whoops, not that color. I want grass. We're going to put a fun little island right here. And there's going to be a reason for that. I promise there will be a reason. Look at that. Oh, don't we have a very beautiful map? I also put on Baby Shark concert to taunt her and danced IRL to it. You're really getting into things. Now, as this is a forested area, and we're talking about, very quick-growing pine trees and the like, let's make sure that we are representing that with a lot of woodlands. Now, if we have a fort, the fort's probably going to exist here, because this is a good source of water. You want to keep it protected. You have kind of a protected landway between here, and it can see out over the lake, and also maybe even look up this way. And so if we want to indicate where our society is, we can... If we can just kind of gray it out, put some artificial angles on stuff to show that this is developed. And maybe there's even a bridge that goes over here, and this comes down. For whatever reason, I don't know why, they kind of booted out this way, and then have come back here. And so we will now fill in here. So this is where our city, our capital of the forest people are going to be. If they want to watch over the shore, it's probably not going to be as heavily forested. If they want to look out. So close by, but kind of giving. You don't want the forest to come right up to the city, because if you do have enemies, natural or otherwise, they can go over your walls, or it's easier to sneak through. So this could just be a couple open miles between the edge of the forest. But maybe it kind of overgrows, and this is far enough away that so what if it butts up against the lake? So it's going to come up, and it's going to hug around and come here. For one reason or another, there's probably wind and water. Probably not a lot of trees on the backside here. So we're going to make sure we're molding the trees coming down this way, and they're going to hug the river. So we'll have the trees come around like so. This will kind of scoop up. No necessarily rhyme or reason. We want to have a carve out because maybe there's I don't know. There's just it's farmland, right? We still need to grow. In fact, all of this over here could end up being fairly well cleared. Maybe from this boulder on is cleared farmland. Because these people still have to eat, even though we describe their eating in a very interesting way. And if we really want, we can designate stuff like arable farmland, maybe with an orange. I try and keep this kind of bone white for things like shore or beach, maybe wasteland of some kind. Not like scrubland, not desert per se. For example, if we want this to be a little island that's really just like a silt beach because of all of the stuff that comes down from the mountains, we can come back through with this color and look. And if we want to make sure that there's a beach that is ringing around the lake, then all we have to do is dance, dance, dance. Kind of hug. Maybe this is like a peninsula sandbar. Whoop. Kind of comes around like this before it boop goes off the map. And let's fill this in and this in. What are the region's specials again? What do you mean by that, bubonic one? I don't understand specials. You're falling asleep in your bed, so I'm heading off. Thanks for the stream and have a great one. Hypnotic Gamer, thank you for the raid, and thank you for supporting the channel as you have. That means a lot to me. Old Knock says you're going to restart the campaign you've been on break from after I ran for a year and a half, and that team is still only level 10 or 12. No god slaying for them. Oh yeah, well, yeah, I'm just setting some territory in our little microcosm, right? So I think we're talking right here, like right in the crook of this river. So it's the tip of the lake, the tip of the mountain, a little bit of this river, and here we are. And if we want, we can do things like we can expand some docks. We can even put one on the interior, one or two. Maybe this is for little personal craft or things like that. However we'd like. If we want a bridge, then sure. Maybe there's a bridge here. And there's a bridge here. All right, we have a playground. We have a general idea for a playground. Oh, I'm sorry. If we want this to be farmland here, probably some open area. And so we have an area more dedicated to farming. Ooh, pardon me. That's more out this way. And probably doesn't go too much behind the boulder. And they farm around here. And we can fill this in now. And if you want to offset it with something else, like we can use a dark orange, and we can do stuff like put, to indicate, planting rows, or we can cordon it off into acres or whatever else that we would like to do. However you want to interact with this. This is your map. You can explain it. You're the key to the map to your players. So, if it makes sense to you to say the orange area, this kind of golden orange, is farmland that has the orange like hatches in it, then there you go. This is where they grow their food and they bring it in for the main city. Ta-da! One other thing as well. And I want to touch on this. If any of you want to do topography, in other words, to make a 3D-ish representation of mountains on your map, this is going to be a way to go about doing that. We have our generic brown mountains, and I have a darker brown color. If you make a topographical map, you are showing the contour of elevation. And here, I'll make an example. Ooh, what's that doing? That's not really hugging as the rest of it did. And every time you make a layer, this is indicating... And here, ooh. This is indicating a constant change in elevation. And so we go broad, but now let's look. Ooh, right here. That's getting really, really close. What this means is on a scale that you choose, every line is 10 feet, 5 feet, 50 feet. Let's say that this is 50 feet. That means here, let me get a bold color. Not everyone can see red. I'll just use black. This is base elevation right here. So where you get this first line at all points is 50 feet from base elevation. So what this means is this is a very gentle slope because it has taken a long distance in order to rise 100 feet. Whereas look at the northern part of this mountain here. It has taken a short distance to rise 100 feet. Does that make sense to you all? I mean, if any of you already know this, I'm not trying to patronize you. But if you haven't done this before, think of it that way. If every line is 50 feet, what does it mean if, so we have that. as opposed to that. Because this is 50 feet. This is 100 feet. And look at the distance between the peak and the rise, as opposed to, if not the peak, then the 100, if this is the 100 mark, as opposed to this. Do you see what we just did? Exactly, Bubonic One. So this is very steep.
When you get a second, I would not mind a Mad Maga.
A Mad Maga. I will happily pop open a Mad Maga for you here very soon, Daily. So this is the side view of kind of what you're seeing here. And something else that you can do to help is to take another color, something that stands out. We can use pink here. And if you put a little chevron like this, that is indicating that this is going up. And, or if you want it to show that it's going down, and here's the difference. Because you can have, let's do this. Right? You see what's happening here? Let's take this back. What happens if we flip these symbols around? And if the open end is towards ground level, what this just did by having these indicator markers is as follows. You see this? Very steep. Very steep. But instead of going up, like we're coming out of a hole. And this is very shallow on the south. Or it's yeah. So if you're going up or down, because you can have dips, right? Mountains are very irregular things. We could indicate. Here, let's go back here. So we put some stripes here, right? We have this, and we'll put another one, and then we have a hole right here, but then we have another stripe. So what do we do up here? This goes up, up, up. This goes down. And so that's showing you that this is like a 50-foot divot in this location right here. Does that make sense to you all? So if you're gonna make topographical maps, you could put the lines, and there's another way you could go about it. If the topography doesn't necessarily matter, you can just do this, and you can put in a ridge line, like so, and then to indicate the slope. And you can have something similar, right? You can have a bunch of these curvature marks here, and then start spreading it out and going from here.
This is my gambling addiction. Passen me up for Roselas Duranica, please, Matty.
All right, Azrael, I will go to the store and I will get you those Ravnica boxes, and I'll have them here for you tomorrow. Adventures go down the hole. Yeah, very good reference, Azrael. So if you want, you could do this, but this doesn't necessarily show you elevation. It's more like, well, here's a mountain, and this is kind of how the mountain, this is how the mountain at its peaks, like we're connecting the peaks of the mountains. So it's up to you, you know, however you want to do it. For right now, I'm just going to leave that blank, and we could fill that in, because I want to get some other details that might be more relevant than how steep a cliff face is. All right, so we have a militocracy. there is a fort of some kind, and that fort could very well be a portion of the city, or it could even be outside of it that's acting as kind of a guardian. You know, we could have a... let's take our dark brown like we did before. You know, so we have our fort that's guarding right here. We'll put it on the... We'll put it right by the shore here, so that they can launch any whatever little lake ships they have, while they're also guarding a main road. And let's have the main... Well, hang on, we got to choose that. Let's have the main road be indicated. We used orange and yellow already over here. We can fill in this as dark gray. And that will give us light gray. And then we can draw a road. So there's a road of some kind. Traveling along the lake shore. Goes by the fort and to the city. And it continues on down this way. And maybe there's even like an old logging trail. This is something else that we can do too. So we have this. Let's do this. And maybe this takes us up. This could take us to a quarry or something if we wanted it to. Or again, it's a logging trail that kind of splits off. And we have some logging camps and other things that just exist out here. These are paths through the forest. And if we do this, let's fill in. Bada boom, bada boom. And now what that'll do, we can come back with our pencil and continue this road through the cleared area. And bring our road up this way to whatever's out here, camps or like a suburb or something like that. And there could be another road that comes off. Maybe it takes it goes around the countryside, like so. Who knows? We do. It'll be up to us. But then they can have a wall that maybe goes to the forest, or at least a gate or a wall here that's an offshoot, so they can block the main passable road. And maybe have like a little scouting tower or something over here. And then we can extend a little dock or something out this way. D&D time has come in with 19 D&D timelings. Hey, it worked. It's awesome to get a raid from you all. To arms, says Slayso. Yo, Flumph. Welcome, Flumph and friends. Trust a Flumph. Trust a Flumph Senpai's noticed us. My goodness. And look at Biddy the Snake. He is getting such entertainment. Diadems, yeah, we're getting raided like madness. Madness and blasphemy. I hope that y'all over at D&D time had an awesome time with the other quests. 5 bits? Oh, we're up to 25. Trust a Flumph. While you're here, real quick. And I say this not to undermine gathering or not gathering of nerds. We are Nerdsmith. I have 2 Flumps. You'll notice we're up to 8 that we've pulled. I have 2 Flumps in the orphanage right now. And someone was in here earlier saying he would really love some Flumps. I can't hold pieces, but I wanted to let you know that there are 2 Flumps available And it'll be, you know, may the best person win in that regard. Wink. I'm not baiting. I'm not a salesman. What are you talking about? That's dumb. More flump love for them all. Oh, that's very. That is very. That is large. Hearted? I don't know. Do flumps have hearts? It's very big of you. The insider info. Well, it's technically up on the orphanage page, so I don't know if it's insider, but that's fine. I got you, Famalam. Famalam a ding dong. The only thing I haven't updated yet were people's personal polls, but the other information was put in there from the boxes we cracked. Oh, Tressa Flump, you missed it too. Hypnotic Gamer ended up getting this big boy. All right, so there are two monuments here. One is an intact obelisk with something. The other is a ruined or toppled obelisk. There's also a boulder carved with talking faces. Now, I think if our lake was created by the final resting place of this comet that fell, I'm kind of thinking the boulder with faces, if we want to go into maybe cosmic horror or to add to the mystery and to say, how is the ice? How is the ice also connected here? What if that boulder is the tip of whatever the remains of the meteorite and like comet or whatever, and is on this island here? So we can keep it green, so it's moss colored. And in fact, if you ever want to make a green hill, everything's not a mountain just like this. Just take another color. So we could use dark green in this case if we really wanted to. And same thing. Just go through. And this is very gentle. In fact, here. Let's say this is 20 feet. The top of this hill is only 40 feet off of the lake surface. But however we want. So what if... Let's make it stand out. Maybe it's like a coppery or a cobalt kind of color. So we have a boulder. The boulder's ready. Right here. That's been catching all the silt and lakeweed and everything. And of course, there's faces on it. And so we indicate it as such. Hey, Estwild, welcome. Now, this is going to play an important part because this could lead to cosmic horror. This could lead to the connection with the glacier and the monastery carved into the glacier's face. Because of the face. It's a clue, it's a link. And if we have this sandbox that our adventurers are sauntering through, they're interacting with the inhabitants, they're exploring, they're cataloging, whatever, they might note the similarities. Now, the locals probably don't get out that much for whatever, one reason or another. They're just very insular, or maybe they can't leave the territory because they're bonded to the land or something, because they're an extension of it. As these will-o-wisp people, this will-o-wisp race that we made, maybe they can't get out, and so they don't really know. They can see the glacier far off, but they don't see the faces, or they don't really interact with it, and they haven't made that connection. Just the same that the swamp nomads don't know that when the islands eventually align, like the spinning skies, and what we made for the frontier town, which was this mound that isn't just a mound with some stones in it, but it's hollow, making a carving of the night sky, and there's a high quartz content rock that allow light to shine through like stars. and the stones form a constellation.
3 months 30 slikke 1 slice die over carrot.
Oh my, V Bunny, 3 months? That is like half of a cow. That's right. Yeah, because we're... I'm laughing because I was on D&D time earlier. And apparently it takes a pretty long time to grow a carrot. Thank you very much. And by the way, if I didn't say thank you as well, not just to you, V Bunny, obviously thank you for your resubscription, but Trustaflumph, you've been here for 8 months, and by the time we have a Twitch baby at month 9, I should have a 9-month badge uploaded for all of you who are at the 9, 10, 11 mark before you get the extra spicy salsa. Now, what image will that be? You'll have to stay tuned and find out what your 9-month badge will be. The boulder is disturbed at being put in the middle of your lake. The boulder. Oh, yeah. Now, what is the obelisk in the... what are the 2 obelisks? As well, remember that we have an important library that exists here, too. And we can say that, sure, the library could be in the city, or if it's more something, a retreat in the woods, or the library could be out by the face on the island. The library could be, if we want it to be more, not aesthetic, but aesthetic, and not acidic, even though we've been talking about bases, we can even have a holdout that the library, which is probably the remnants of some kind of the original Nomad's notes and artifacts, could be placed someplace that is maybe out of the way, right? If these are forest people, not lake people, then they lived in the forest. And if this is the remnants of there, then it, like, deep into the woods, we can make a carve out. This was the path. And maybe there's no easy way to get to this library, because that's part of the process. You have to walk as the nomads did. So there's no road. There's a road that kind of goes by it. But here, let's indicate this with a little point of interest. And we'll make this... This is red. If you can't see red, I'm using red because it stands out. And so this is where our nomadic historical library is. Welcome back, Nova. Now, what did we do? Look, we're messing around in paint. We're making a map. This is stuff that we didn't flesh out. But in speaking out loud, in thinking out loud and with each other, we're creating custom. We're creating history. I didn't know the library was going to be in the middle of the woods. And also, why doesn't it have a direct path? Because that's the, in this society that's been built up with all these will-o-wisp people, these whispers. This is the one thing, if you want to study, it's not religious, but it certainly, it shows you want the knowledge, the dedication, and you will walk historically as our ancestors walked. And so the closest thing is maybe an access road that, who knows, this could be like 20 miles, 10 miles. We haven't developed a scale yet, and that's fine. This is conceptual right now. I mean, this could end up just occupying down here, depending on the scale. And so, what are we showing? Discipline. That goes into their military, right? That goes into their militaristic background. If they had a really good army in this Civil War, or at least a more organized fashion than kind of the loosey-goosey the swamp folk had. So just by playing in Paint and talking out loud while looking at a document, we're still building our forest society. Now, there's a ruined obelisk and there's an intact obelisk. What that could mean then an obelisk that bears a message. There was also an obelisk that was at the canyon that made everything giant-sized. And that could have been carved also as a warning. Could also be an indicator, like a pin on a map. The old one... So we could have one. Again, we'll put a point of interest, although we'll make this a 5-pointed star. The new obelisk is in the center of town. Maybe as an inspiration rising high and acting as a landmark. Or if not there, how about this? What if we put it in the middle of the forest on this island going into and out of? So it can be seen from the lake, and it can be seen by, the farmlands. Well, if they're 20-mile scale or whatever, I guess. Yeah. But it can be seen by those in the city as well. And so this also bears messages of caution. This bears messages of hope, or it speaks to it speaks about the values that the natives have here. And so the swamp people, again, this was through random rolls. The swamp people had totem poles. Totem poles are more of a belief structure. They're more animistic, maybe more religious affiliated. Not that obelisks can't be, but they're carved from wood traditionally. They have spiritual messages. Obelisks, they're more of a manufactured, like precision angles, great feats of engineering, rather than just carving out of a trunk that already can support the weight and exist. And so this is also reinforcing the split between wisdom and intelligence that mechanically we installed in each of the subraces. I have a doubt. When you create a world from scratch by establishing the level of impact on the society of that world, how do you establish the level of impact on each deity? That is heavily going to depend on the types of deities, on the belief system, the mechanics of the belief system. For example, does the god or gods exist without any recognition from the followers? Or if the more people pray to a god or goddess, that god or goddess gets more powerful, and therefore it's a popularity contest of sorts. There's all kinds of like fluff or crunch that you can instill with a pantheon or a belief system. Hark says, wish I could stay up longer, but got to sleep. Thanks for the stream. Yeah, Hark, hey, thanks for hanging out with us. And hopefully I'm not putting you to sleep, or if I am and you needed sleep, then good. Go get you some. Now, the old one, then. If we have this old or this ruined or toppled obelisk, maybe this one, and we can make this one into... I don't know, maybe we should have used the 6-pointed star for here. Here, we'll just use a triangle for our toppled one. What if that existed here as a monument to the face, to the rock face? However, in the Civil War, or perhaps something happened where maybe the natives or the nomads that moved here understood that, this is what they followed, this is what they worshipped, but maybe they found out that it was more than they had thought, and that this could be a cosmic horror or just some entity that was dangerous. And so they put up this obelisk as a seal or as a warning. And over time, through erosion or through the Civil War, or the exertion of this force itself against a seal, the obelisk broke. And as time had moved on, and the nomads became whispers and such, they saw that it was broken, but they could still keep it up there and say, well, let's make another monument. This one is bigger. And they lost the point because they also lost their faith. Not that they're not magical people, but they didn't get that this was a seal of faith. That this was in fear and reverence of this greater being, if we want to go for that storyline. And so they made a new obelisk, and they're proud of it, and it straddles the two parts of the city on the river here. But it's not the same. And it didn't stop other influences, as maybe we're talking about the lake grows more acidic, or as this mutagenic, like this radiation continues to emanate from the faces. And that's something that could have helped them keep their shape. Maybe that's how the nomads lasted as long as they did, or something along those lines. But then the seal was broken somehow. I mean, it's up to us to create the timeline, but these are thoughts I'm throwing out. I understand the belief system is what determines that, and it's however you want to set it up. It could be the more that like it's a numbers game. 10,000 every 10,000 people that worship a god, they get, I don't know, a god point. And so the most popular god with 100,000 followers has 10 god points, but a minor god has 2 god points. You can mechanize it like that if you want. It could be it doesn't just even have to be numbers. It could be the dedication. You could have a god that is powerful but singular to a tribe, and then you can have a god that is very important to a lot of people, but because that god is serving so many people, the power is drawn out over them. So you can have like an inverse proportion if you want. Right? It's kind of like pirates and ninjas are in inverse proportion of effectiveness to each other. The less ninjas there are, the more powerful they are. The more pirates there are, the more powerful the pirates are. And so one ninja versus a boat of 50 pirates is about an equal match. But 50 ninjas are not going to be able to overtake a boat of 50 pirates. And one pirate, pardon me, my voice is a little raw. One pirate can't take down one ninja. Does that make sense? You mean the war of Western aggression, says Azrael. That's quite a nice showing of your stinky feet there. Pete 2019, you missed a fantastic quote today. It's now a bot command? Oh my goodness. Or you could have no gods at all and it's just believing in nothing? Yeah. Even in my D&D world, it's monotheistic. And for a great long while before a power even started to come from the god that became the monotheistic god, people fervently believed in the god and received no powers. Because to them, that was the measure of true faith. Sure, you get magic for praying. We don't get something in return for our faith, and therefore it's more pure. And you want to know what faith survived? The people who are most devout because they believed, not because they got goodies. God points us out D&D, determine the strength. Yeah, there's like deity rankings and how to achieve being a demigod and then a lesser god and a minor god and whatever. Yeah, there's a tier system to it, and I don't say that dismissively. I'm not grumpy at it, but it's there. You can find mechanics for it in the older books. Deities and demigods in 3rd edition, that's a source book you could go to. Bubonic one, if there's older editions that have stuff like that too, please feel free to give them a shout out. So our town name is Fort Starfall, and so that led into what we have here. And if we really wanted to, I mean, we're using stars as kind of indicators. If we wanted to make this more of a star pattern, or even if there's a road system, right? So we have this, if we have this here, maybe the public square is right in the middle of this right here. And so we have our roads that lead through and we can make this angular, and you know, I'm kind of making like a winding nature trail. We can certainly come through and have this be, you know, more mechanical, and show angles and whatnot. In fact, the city where I live, let me show you this. The city where I live was plotted out against against the Masonic the Masonic symbol, because it was founded by Masons. So clearly, we are sealing an elder evil under the waters of Lake Erie. But if you take a look at it, and you can go through and plot this out. If you want something that's more meandering, I mean, it still has some sense. Take a look at the map of Waterdeep. You can generate maps of cities as well, if you wish to do so. There's a lot you can do to explore. Is it organized going north, south, east, west? And so the streets are the streets are like a compass. Now this isn't exactly north, because look, north is going this way, so we're facing off a little bit. So this isn't exactly north, south, east, west kind of a thing here. But you can organize your city like that. It could just follow natural footpaths that people created as the city was growing over time. And that's kind of like Rome-ish. Or a lot of older cities where just footpaths traveled as they did. And so when you're designing your city, there's a lot of different ways that you can go about doing this. So in this case, if these are people with a star central history and mythology, then we may get that, and we might find other like public circles are more like stars. So we could even do this. So here's our central hub, like maybe whatever, this is the mayor's, like the city hall or whatever. And then we come out here and we have some other hubs. Maybe, I don't know, 3. Or there's now, one coming off of each of these. And then we come down to, and then there's 2 more for each of these. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 for hubs. And in its own way, you know how we talked about the swamp people have the islands and the totem poles that slowly drift around. I mean, these are more immutable, but what if the streets are set up like a constellation with their parks and public squares? I mean, I can tell you, there's a lot of people who live in this city. Even though you walk past all of the placards that talk about this, and you tell them that the city is laid out like the symbol of the Masons, and they're gonna look at you like, "What? That's dumb." No, even though it's right there. The founder of the plotter, the founders wanted it to be set up to have that, and you could very well have a society that couldn't put the 2 and 2 together, even though they're supposedly more intelligent than not society, where they don't see this, pattern of the interconnected stars making you know, like with main avenues or something. And then this, I don't know, this can come down, this comes down, but this comes up this way and over this way. But this one comes straight down. And I don't know, this is a random pattern. What do you see in the pattern? But the main streets could form a constellation because we have a star-centered society. I mean, people are like, yeah, we have stars. We like stars. There's stars in the sky. Because over time, especially amongst a more secularized people or a more agnostic people, pardon, a lot of these deeper meanings and relevancies fall away. Or they're dismissed like, that's what our primitive, that's what our throwback founders believed. They're dumb. They don't know. You know, these streets were plotted, you know, a couple hundred years ago. And look how far we've advanced. So it's nice. It's a public whatever, but it doesn't really hold meaning. It doesn't actually seal a monster in Lake Erie. Yeah, the more worshippers they had, the more points they could do stuff with. When you get the chance and are on D&D time, try the bot command, ! Stinky feet. It's a very nice town, V-Bunny. I'm very happy here. Oh, woo. Hey, Fallon. Oh, woo. A circular city, it's a small star in the center and a bigger star around that and so on. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. If you wanted to do it that way, instead, there's that, and then, you know, there's a town here, a town circle, or one here, and then finally like one out here, and maybe this is why it's so spread out, because if we do this, you know, if your PCs are clever enough and they trace this, watch what happens. Aha, see what's happening here? You see what's crack-a-lacking? What have we just done with this city and being made out into these concentric circles? Hello, Lysaria. Welcome. That constellation can be the one that the comet fell from in the sky. The meteor showers come from the outer trails of comets and appear to come out of constellations. The reason we call, say, the Perseids is because the meteors appear to fall out of the Perseid constellation. Ah, V-Bunny. And this could have been a clue that the nomadic ancestors left. And that could even be... Yeah, exactly. And what if? And maybe, oh, it's magic, you know. Because we have MS Paint, and look how powerful we are. Bye, Ruined Obelisk. Hi, Ruined Obelisk. If we have a ruined obelisk, maybe it was set up that way and was purposely tipped or something. But what if this follows a path a street. So the nomads who planned out the city early on watched the stars. They traced it. They had these early astronometric ideas. What if this tells the story of the fallen star? And again, the lore was split because half the tribe was lost in the swamp. So the swamp people have, in the grand scheme of things, you know, the stars, the constellations. These people have something similar, but they're displaying it differently. Maybe each with subtle but compelling details. Have fun. Name a rock after me. All right, Fallon. I think we're about done because we've explored a lot of ideas, and I owe a Mad Mage box opening for daily. Hello, Shukan. Welcome. Now, if we're being cultural as well, you know, we're probably going to want to indicate, you know, we'll want to indicate some lumber mills, some mining and smelting operations, probably closer to the source. Maybe some caves, notable caves. There's probably some water wheels, or windmills, but probably water mills and water wheels along the river. There's, you know, there's probably going to be the windmills or grain processing out here. We can spend so much time putting in more interesting details. You know, or we could just put a note that, yeah, on the farmlands, there's a bunch of windmills that process grain. Your players are going to go, okay, I get that. Do you want to continue to have patterns and have all the windmills look like spinning comet tails? Or sure, or not. That's up to you. But I think this was an excellent conversation about this society. We produced a lot of information, and as dungeon masters in sharing our experiences, you all had some very awesome ideas. This is also another great example of what happens if you just sit down with MS Paint. If you want to use GIMP, you want to use Photoshop Pro, Ultra, Deluxe, Gold Edition, you need the spread. You need an Ubisoft spreadsheet to figure out, you know, what tiers, because whatever. You know, the live service of photo editing. But if you just crack open MS Paint and talk out loud, and you make sounds, and you reflect back on all the notes that you have. I mean, nothing really here is too complex. We didn't spend hours toiling and referencing scientific or cultural manuals or the like. The only thing that might still be an outstanding issue, we have as this current calamity a suspected vampire infestation. And it doesn't have to be bloodsuckers, because I don't think the Whispers have traditional blood. That is also presuming that the vampires are after the sentient life forms, or that the vampires are consuming physical things. We just cracked open for Azrael a mind drinker vampire. But what if this is a vampire? What if we have like a chupacabra infestation, an animal that mutated and is decimating the ranches that are growing things? What if they're aquatic vampires? You know, kind of like what if it's a species of lamprey? Ooh, ugh. Wouldn't that be something? You go for a swim in the lake, and until just recently there's no real predators that could threaten you, and suddenly like a 7-foot long lamprey just affixes itself to you and starts sucking your blood. Where did the lampreys come from? That could be a huge calamity if they're eating all the fish. If they're like attacking and damaging boats, if they're, you know, if they suck the blood but nothing else, and a bunch of dead fish just continually wash up on shore that aren't able to be eaten, and it's causing disease. How about that? Venison and beer for all. Thank you, Azrael. Well done with that elk. Question, what's the thing you use to determine the calamity and other things like that? In Shukan, in the Dungeon Master's Guide, if you go to page... Here we go. Page 112. Here are some settlement prompts that you can use. Soul Drinker, or it's a forest, they're mosquitoes, or sturges. Yeah, there we go. There are no predators. Enter dozens of parasites. And you know what? That could be something that starts in the lake, but how long until these leeches or lampreys, if we want them as such, turn into, go to the swamp? What if they actually originated in the giant zone, and they just decided to swim in one direction over the other? We already know the swamp has a ton of mosquitoes because of the event, the yearly cycle that we made. Perhaps vampires for whispers are nocturnal stink bugs that emit a gas that attacks the wisp cloud and then absorbs it. Yeah, so it could be a kind of, so like how flies vomit on their food and then suck it back up. We could have something similar. It could be like a chemical warfare with some element of nature or an aberration, because we're already talking, this is a place rife with mutations. And so the vampires dissolve our whispers and suck the puddles back up. Yeah, V-Bunny. Yeah, in our... When we do a settlement concept, and this is a blank worksheet, we reference the terrain types in the player's handbook, and then we go into the form of government on page, I think this is actually supposed to be 18. And then we go to monuments and weird locales, and then we go into the settlement information, which continues into things like town, the tavern, and all that other stuff. Bombardier beetles. Now, that could be something that we could indicate on our map if we wanted to put things like migratory patterns, or if we showed this map and then so we hand it out because whatever, the PCs made it this far, they obtained a map of the region, but the guide says, hold on a minute, I have to do something to your all's maps. And the guide comes through and says, you see this here? Unfortunately, while it's part of the road in the library, there's been a lot of strange stuff happening here. And people aren't allowed inside until we figure out what's going on. And if it's not here, whatever, you could make it be, and or no one's allowed to go to the face. Looks like we're losing part of the breadbasket here. There's been a lot of attacks. There's so much stuff here that you can do regarding that. Because you also know that that's going to be an awesome temptation for your player characters. You know that's right. All right, everyone, I have to get something. My throat's a little sore here. Let's get up and stretch, take a little break, and when we come back, I'm not going to be very long daily. I'm just going to take a minute or two. I'm going to go get another sody pop, and yep, we will bust open a Mad Mage, not Monster Menagerie 3, a full box of Mad Mage for daily.